I think it was a really beautiful year for athletics last year. I mean, look, we took 11 young men and women to the Olympics, right? And each of them was a brand new Olympian, and so I see it as the beginning of their Olympic career as opposed to what has typically been in the case in the past. In 2012, I think there were only 3 athletes that we took. In 2008, there were only 3 athletes. So on the one count, I think this shows that there's sort of an upsurge in the way our athletes are performing. I think on another front also, the fact that this was a really young team, I think it should give us hope for anticipation for the future. I mean, I think 2 of the, I shouldn't call them kids, but that was the first word that was going to come out of my mouth. 2 of them were 19 years old. And if you go and you look at the ages of Olympic medalists or Olympic finalists, you see that what it means is that they've got a future ahead of them. One of them has actually, one of those 19-year-olds has actually already come out this indoor season. There have been 2 weeks of the indoor season passed already and broken a national record in the 500 meters. The season has started. Samson Azuma ran almost 30 seconds faster than the national record that he himself broke last year. So for me, 2016 was a breakout year. I mean, we went to the African Championships in Durban, and I think they came 5th or 6th. The number of medals they won had only been surpassed by 1 or 2 other African Championship teams in the past. The position they got had only been surpassed by 1 other. I mean, I think there was a time when Ghana was 4th at the African Championships, but we've never been better than that, So these young athletes that we have really, I think, stamped their authority on Ghana sports. I think they own more than 60% of the national records since 2011. And what I think is that they're really young, and we really do need to continue to give them national support, both emotionally and financially when we can. So in that regards, going back to the question you asked, I think it was another big stepping stone in terms of the journey that our athletes are making. People keep asking me, so we keep taking these steps on stone when we actually get where we want to get. Where we want to get is actually medals. I mean, I think that we're setting ourselves up very well for that. I've always told the athletes, at least in the last 3 or 4 years, that I think I can shelter them in 2016 and 2012 if they don't get medals. None of the young ones made the medal thing in 2012, but in 2016 they got to the Olympics, the young ones, and they didn't win medals. And I told them, I said, I can shelter you for this trip, but in 2020, if you don't get medals, you have to take the responsibility for that, because there'll be 27, there'll be 28, there'll be 29, some of them will be 26, and they would have had enough time to really mature. I look at events like the women's 4x1. Before last year, our fastest time was the time that the 2 Vidas, Vida and Sian, Vida and Nim, and a couple of their colleagues ran, I think, at the 2000 Olympics, 43.6 or 43.4 something. Yeah. This year, this group of 5 or 6 girls ran the 3rd fastest. Well, at the time they ran it, the first time it was the 2nd fastest time, and then they came and ran in Cape Coast the time that was a national record, 42.6 or 7 or whatever it was. For me, the saddest moment in my Ghana athletics life since I was an athlete was when certain parties in Ghana decided to write to IAAF and tell them that we had actually forged the time and it wasn't legitimate and whatnot. And it was really sad for me because, yeah, you might not like Francis Dodoo, but you shouldn't take your dislike for Francis Dodoo and sort of try to adversely affect the chances of women who legitimately ran that time, and Ghana's fortunes. Because what this person was hoping for, I think, was for Ghana to not be included. This time they select the 16 teams that go to the Olympics, and I think what this person wanted was for Ghana to not be selected, which would then allow them to make an argument that, you see, they didn't qualify people for the Olympics and whatnot. But it's for me, it's really it's difficult for me to comprehend when people can actually do this to their country and then still claim to be patriots and whatnot. So we go on. I mean, the IAAF and CAA, the Continental Association, they asked us they demanded actually the files from the electronic timer, and those are files that you can't open unless you have certain proprietary softwares that the owner of the machine has. And so we sent it to them. We never even got a chance to open them. They looked at them, and 48 hours later they wrote back to us and said it was clear that our girls had run that time. They had also seen the video that some of your press colleagues put online, and they realized that the time was legitimate. They also talked to Ivory Coast, who was here, you know. So for me, that day was a really high point, to find that these girls, and if you look at the history of these girls, and I'm talking about Beatrice Jarman, Fling Zosua Japong, Janet Amponsa, and Gemma Champong, and this year they were also with Persis and Ekuya and Dorcas Jima. I mean, these girls for the last 3 years have consistently demonstrated that they could run this caliber of time. And yet we go to South Africa and we get very cold temperatures and they get beaten to second place by South Africa. We get to Congo, we get there very late. They didn't even get a chance to do relay batons. They got beaten by, I think it was Nigeria there. And they've been second in the African Games or African Championships, I think 3 or 4 consecutive times, always to different countries, because we just couldn't get it right. So this year, after we missed Durban, the qualifying for the Olympics in Durban, it was really cold in Durban. I mean, when the sun went down at 5 p.m., remember it was winter in the southern hemisphere, our athletes just didn't cope. So when we came back from Durban, we told them, as soon as we get to Kotoka, you're not going home and then we'll tell you to report to Cape Coast. They went straight to Cape Coast. So they got to Cape Coast the night we arrived in Ghana, and the next morning they started training. And for 10 days, all they did, none of them trained for their individual event. All they did was relay baton, 7 young women and 2 coaches. That's all they did. 10, 11 days later, they get it together. And if you watch the race, it's online. I'm not sure whether you've seen it. I mean, finally, everything just came together. They beat Ivory Coast by, 5, 6 meters. They ran 42.67. It was the high point of, it showed how when you sort of invest and you trust and you persevere, things can come together, right? That was the high point of my career. And then 2 days later, the low point of my career. But it all went well. It all went well. Yeah.